G'day guys, it's Jürgen here from Niche Interview, and tonight we're very excited to talk to the founders of a outfit in Perth called Popupshopup, Ronan and Daniel. Hey guys, how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Good, thanks. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. Hey guys, so you run a website called Popupshopup, and in a nutshell, it provides access to small, short-term leasing locations for pop-up shops and entrepreneurs that need a space to work here in Perth. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Popupshopup is and how the idea got started?
Yeah, sure thing. So basically what it is in a nutshell is anywhere that's vacant sort of space or unused or underutilized space, we provide the platform that can now be listed. And then the other flip side to that is then we go out and find brands and tenants who are keen to get into spaces that previously couldn't have, whether due to sort of costs or insurance requirements or just the overall risk of starting their own business in a physical space. We then get them in there that they can now use that sort of space from anywhere from 1 day to 6 months. But more so than that, it's not just a listing site. We also provide a comprehensive sort of service around it that once you've found this sort of space, we then can help you out with your insurance. All payments and that can be done through us. We have a partnership with PayPal, so you can get your payments securely done within the space. And then we also help out with the setup of the space, fitting it out, and also even running the space with temporary staff.
Gotcha.
We have other services as well with design, so providing branded bags and things like that. So it's the ultimate sort of one-stop shop, as I'd describe it.
Awesome. Do you want to add anything, Daniel?
Well, I think the original idea was born out, we wanted to be, if you will, an Airbnb of pop-up shops.
Okay.
And as Ronan said, it was about being more than just a listing space, but actually providing something back to businesses, small and large, and community groups that really needed to get into a physical location that beforehand was almost impossible for them to do. And that's been something that we've been very keen to promote and enhance since day one, and we'll continue to do so.
Okay, and when did the idea come to life? So what gave you the spark to try this? So another way of asking that question is, what wrong are you righting at the moment?
I think it was born out of our own individual frustrations of trying to get into short-term space, but also at the same time seeing an incredibly increased amount of vacant space within the community, within the city. And we really saw that there was a missing link here. It was, why was it so hard to get into such space that seemed to be increasingly more and more available? There was clearly a gap in the market, and it was quite troubling to us to see that why was it so hard to do.
Okay, why was it so hard? What are the kind of challenges that someone's facing at the moment related to getting short-term space for a shop that they want to run or a place to work out of? You know, what's the kind of issue that they're dealing with that you guys are resolving for them?
I think there's a variety of issues, and it depends on the actual tenant as well. And there's actually both sides. For real estate agents, there's too much work that goes into it from their side of things for a short-term sort of lease.
Okay.
So for them to put that sort of effort into a short-term space, they don't get that sort of return until now. And then from a tenant's point of view as well, because it's an offer or an appeal for any sort of tenant, whether it's an individual startup like an entrepreneur or an established sort of global sort of brand as well, first of all, finding that space has always been difficult. There was nowhere really to go to for that. And the sort of process around that was a big issue. But I think the big core ones with any sort of commercial or retail real estate is the cost requirement for that. You're talking about on average around $55,000 a year plus GST, and that's not even setting anything up in that space.
Right.
And then the other one is the actual risk. So putting yourself into a contract for 2 to 5 years, locking yourself into a certain location, there's a lot of risk that goes with that. You're not sure if that location is going to work with you, if your target market's going to be there, if there's changes happening around that location. There's so many what ifs. So that's what the solution is there to solve. For both parties, there's so many benefits, and we've already seen that already.
I see. So it sounds like what you guys are doing is, the current frustration then is, if you wanted a space, physical space, you'd have to sign for a long time, 2 years plus.
Yes.
And that would come at a predetermined rate, which is really geared more towards a large corporation that's used to, maybe they've got a legal team that can review the contract, things like that. And what you guys are doing is just activating that space for shorter term, which helps the lessor, because now this unused space it's marketable, because someone can actually get in there at a price that makes sense for them. They can sign a short-term lease, and you guys have developed a systemized way for them to find it execute the agreement in a standard way that makes it easy to access, and then get a price that's competitive for them, which they can budget for, and try a new idea or try a new market here in Perth, and so on. Is that more or less? I think our connection's a little bit bad.
Yeah, it got most of that though, but
okay.
I think that's very much spot on. And even some of the tenants in the early sort of phases of it were saying to us, like, are you able to help us out with actually staffing the place, because we've got our own jobs. So that's where the short-term benefit of it comes into play as well. Like, you can keep your existing job and your full-time job. You could just do this on the weekend or take a week off and test out your idea to make sure it's valid and proven.
Interesting. And what kind of?
I think that
go ahead.
Testing market's a big one, because what we find is that a lot of people want to try the location first before they enter into that longer term 2 or 3 year lease. So that really benefits all the parties involved. You've got an agent that might get, yes, he might only get a 1 week short-term rent out of it, but it's still an income. The tenant's happy because the space is activated and everyone's being proactive. But at the end of the day, it's going to encourage someone into that longer lease if it's a big success and their business is a big success in that space. And we're having that positive feedback from all the parties involved in the pop-up shop process.
Excellent. So tell me about
you guys. Think as well, I work. I was just saying, I work at a software company as well, and the way that a lot of the sort of customers work is you offer the free trial to start, because that takes the risk away for it, make sure it's in line with your requirements. So being able to apply that to a premise, that's amazing. It gets the real estate someone added to their portfolio to say this new tenants come in. It shows us active, and for the tenant themselves is comfort for every sort of party involved in as well.
Excellent. Okay, so if I had to think about it a different way, it would be that you are basically putting an optimized sales funnel in place for something that didn't have that opportunity before. You see, for software, like you mentioned, it's a free trial. It gets people interested in it, test it out, try it out, see what the experience is like, and then they can invest. It's a good way to generate new clients and to get that funnel filled up at the end. And you guys are doing that for physical space. Fantastic. So you guys are entrepreneurs. How did you get started along this journey? We know what the challenges are and so on, but how did you guys meet, and how would you define an entrepreneur as such? What kind of qualities do you think one has to embody to make this work for you?
I think, just speaking in terms, I think we've known each other many years through, friendship groups and whatnot. And I think that leads into how I would define an entrepreneur, which is someone that pursues an idea or has that idea and is willing to test it out, try it, speak about it with people. And I think that's how our friendship grew and how the start of this business grew, is because we had these common ideas, sometimes that were aligned, but we were able to speak to one another about it and then action those ideas. Now, you may have 100 ideas a year and you only ever end up actioning one item. But I would say for me, that's what an entrepreneur is, the person that's willing to test out those ideas and take the risk. And really, that's really how we've become closer friends and closer business partners, because we were testing ideas out together. And it was really only a matter of time until we found ourselves in a position like we are now, where we are actioning an idea that we think has got some fantastic legs to it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I think just further to that, as an entrepreneur for me, is having a frustration with something, but finding a solution for that and driving that through to actually action that sort of change. Daniel and I remember it was actually at a friend's drinks, and we were just talking about our own sort of businesses that we had on the side at the time. We weren't overly close at the time, but we were just talking about other sort of ideas. And then from then, I think we met up the next day and we started talking about other ideas we had. And then from there, it just progressed. We had our own businesses as well, but then it turned into this sort of partnership, Popupshopup, and it's only grown from there.
Excellent, man. And so from the experience that you've had running your own businesses individually, did both of you have businesses prior